Andenes. From here, I plan to go on a whale safari in open sea, but as I mentioned earlier, it was cancelled due to strong winds. So after a good night's sleep, I set off towards the Lofoten archipelago. The village of Andenes is the northernmost settlement of the island of Andoya. I had about 200 kilometers to go to Lofoten, although I had hoped to ride more that day. So I couldn't stand there for long and admire the views, but I did stop at one place. You won't believe it, but it was a toilet. Yes, a toilet, and I'll show you it right away. The uniqueness of this particular place is that you can do your business here with a view of the sea. The window here opens or closes according to your wishes. If you want privacy, you can always darken it. See it for yourself. Once you stop at this place, don't rush to leave. Take a walk around. The views are definitely worth your attention. This day of the trip was one of the better ones, weather-wise. My whale watching safari had been cancelled due to strong winds, so I was a little worried that the strong winds might make it harder to ride. But I was worried for no reason. The wind didn't get any stronger, it even started to weaken. I was finally able to get my drone up in the air. I hadn't been able to do that before for safety reasons. The constantly strong winds wouldn't let me. The sun was peeking out and then hiding behind the clouds. It wasn't even cold. I could take my time and admire the scenery as it passed by. My road from Andoya Island to the Lofoten archipelago stretched across many larger and smaller islands. I drove over bridges and tunnels, admired mountain peaks and expanses of water. I had been on the road for a week, but my mind still didn't want to believe that all that beauty was really around me. I wanted to ride without stopping and drink it all in. When I later watched the video footage of the trip, I kept catching myself thinking that the images on the screen didn't convey all the beauty that my eyes captured. Lofoten is a Norwegian archipelago and a district in Nordland County. It is located above the Arctic Circle, but the climate is one of the warmest in such high latitudes. The Lofoten archipelago is famous for its beautiful nature. Everything you have read and heard about the dramatic landscape of Lofoten is true. Despite its northern location, there is an abundance of wildlife on land and in the water, and there is even a large deep-sea coral reef in the sea about 100 kilometers to the west. It is estimated that Lofoten has a population of about 24,500 people. Tourists visit here incomparably more. 1 million people visit here every year. and now I was among that million. Before coming here, I had heard that during the season, due to the large number of tourists, traffic on the roads in Lofoten slows down a lot, even creates traffic jams on the roads. But that didn't happen to me. Maybe sometimes there were more cars, but everyone moved, not bothering each other. That day, one of my main goals in Lofoten was Henningsvær Stadium, that famous stadium among the rocks, surrounded on three sides by the Atlantic Ocean, of which I almost guarantee you have all seen photos. Henningsvær is a fishing village in Vågen municipality. The venue is only used for amateur football, but with the increase of drone photography, the Henningsvær football pitch has gained global attention. The Union of European Football Associations filmed this place for their We Play Strong video. As a result, the venue has become a tourist attraction, and I'm a tourist too, aren't I? While I was flying the drone over Henningsvær Stadium, evening was approaching. It was time to look for a place to stay. However, when I started to choose online, it turned out that only the most expensive places were left. I checked the weather forecast. Everything was fine. There was no rain, the temperature had already risen, so a tent would be fine. I took it with me, along with all the camping equipment. But so far, due to bad weather conditions, cold and rain, I have been spending the nights under a roof. Wild camping is allowed in Norway. If you see a beautiful place, you can pitch a tent there. It is important that it is not private property. For me, everything would be fine with such accommodation. I do not see any problems. But campsites still maintain some kind of service. There are normal toilets, showers with hot water, sometimes kitchenettes, and in some places you can even wash your clothes. So I prefer this option. Google Maps always helps when you need to choose. I looked at one that seemed pretty good, but then I read the reviews and decided not to. Most of those who had been there said that the owner was an aggressive psychopath. Maybe not. I should go for another one. I soon found the right one for me, on the ocean shore surrounded by mountains, so I stopped there. A stream gurgles nearby. There is complete peace all around. Only in the distance a cuckoo was cackling all the evening. I think you should visit northern Norway at least twice in your lifetime. Once in winter, when the northern lights ripple across the sky, and at least once in the middle of summer, when the sun never sets here. That midnight sunlight, at least for me, is an incredibly impressive phenomenon. These images you see now were filmed and photographed well after midnight. The sun travels here, never setting below the horizon for several weeks in the summer. When I got up and set up my tent, my first destination was the Lofoten Viking Museum. Before leaving the campsite, I took a good look at the rear tire of my motorcycle. It had been worrying me for a couple of days, because I noticed that it was wearing out badly. It had been replaced in the fall and it had only lasted 7.5 thousand kilometers. Apparently this trip had really made the tire wear out so quickly. As soon as I arrived at the Lofoten Viking Museum, I found two Moto Guzzi motorcycles in the parking lot, just like mine, only with French license plates. I looked and saw that their tires looked worse than mine. A Frenchman nearby said that their tires had only lasted 6,000 kilometers of northern roads. It became clear that on the way I needed to look for a place where I could change my rear tire. Speaking of the Lofoten Viking Museum, it must be said that you need some time to see it. The area here is huge. Everything is scattered among the surrounding hills, and in order to reach the lake where you can sail on a Viking ship, shoot from a bow or throw axes, you need to walk about 1.5 kilometers down the mountain. You need to go back the same distance, only up the mountain. The museum may disappoint some visitors because there is no show here. Here, you simply get acquainted with the everyday life and lifestyle of the Vikings. Pigs graze in the fence, cows ruminate right here, sheep wander somewhere in the hills, there are quite a few horses. In the restored Viking house, it is shown how wool was spun, fish was dried, furs were processed, or a blacksmith worked. There are not many swords and armor here, but there are examples of Viking games, Viking chess, or throwing horseshoes at targets. When I got back on the road, at one point the navigation decided to show me a shorter route. So I got about 4 kilometers of gravel road along a mountain road, up and down, winding and with steep slopes. It was worth it. When I got back on the asphalt, I found myself next to a beautiful beach with white sand. There were a few people relaxing on the shore, and I saw a few divers in the water. The seawater temperature in Lofoten may not be as pleasant as in southern Europe, but at the same time, the water is not as cold as we might think. Thanks to the Gulf Stream and its branches, the North Atlantic Current and the Norwegian Current, the Lofoten Islands are the northernmost territory with positive temperatures. The water temperature here has been recorded for 90 years, and on average between March and August it ranges from plus 3 degrees Celsius, 37.4 degrees Fahrenheit, to plus 14 degrees, 57.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Let me remind you, this is far north beyond the Arctic Circle. The worn tire was accompanied by another headache that day. When I stopped somewhere, I wanted to take off my helmet, but I only heard something rattling inside it, and the front of the helmet wouldn't lift. I guessed that some part of the mechanism inside broke. This mechanism preventing the front of the helmet from moving freely and holding it in place while riding. I use a flip-up helmet. I don't use it as a full-face helmet. So now I had to learn how to take it off and put it on like a normal one without twisting. But it was terribly uncomfortable. My head could barely move back and forth. I tried to fix it in the hotel in the evening, but I couldn't. It became clear that I needed not only a new tire, but also a new helmet. I decided to buy a new helmet when I got home. So the rest of the trip I suffered a bit with the helmet that wouldn't open. When I put my head in the helmet, my ears would fold over, like an elephant's from a strong wind. And when I took it off, my nose would get in the way. Later, I discovered that wearing an undershirt helped a little. But it was temporary. Because it's warm, it's meant for riding when it's cold. so wearing an undershirt wasn't a good solution on warm days. My path that day was to end right where the European route E10 highway ends, a fishing village with the shortest name in the world, O. Here the road ends because here the land ends. It is the southern end of the Lofoten archipelago. Until the 1990s, O was mainly a small fishing village specializing in stockfish, but since then tourism has taken over as the main economic activity. The town features the Lofoten Stockfish Museum and the Norwegian Fishing Village Museum as two big tourist attractions. So today you can find crowds of tourists here. The village has achieved notable popularity on the internet due to its short name, but also it is known for its traditional architecture. It is said to be one of the best preserved old fishing villages in all of Norway. It started to rain here. It was evening and I was already quite happy to be able to take a shelter under a roof. In the morning, a ferry to Norway's mainland was waiting for me. In the morning, it took me only 5 minutes to ride from the hotel where I was staying to the port, where the ferry was waiting for me. The morning was cloudy and I can't say that it was pleasantly warm. I saw that it was raining somewhere in the mountains, but I didn't get any rain at that time.
Good morning.
Do you have a ticket?
I have this ferry pay.
Yeah.
By Lofoten, I'm traveling further to explore mainland Norway. The ferry from Lofoten to Bodo takes 4 hours. The ferry was full of people. I saw that there were also cars left on the shore. They will have to wait for the next ferry. It's easier for motorcycles. They go around all the waiting cars, stand at the front of the queue, and are allowed onto the ferry first. Since the ferry trip takes a long time, I started looking for a place to change my rear tire on the ferry. The nearest largest city on my way is Trondheim. It was a 2-day ride. My plan was to change my rear tire there. When the ferry reached the port of Bodo, it was sunny, but the forecast was already gloomy. I still hoped to drive to the legendary Artic Circle Visitor Center, located 150 kilometers away without rain, but I saw that I would not be able to avoid it later. At first, the road wound through valleys. I saw that it was raining in the mountains ahead. It was clear what awaited me. A few dozen kilometers before the Arctic Circle Visitor Center, the road suddenly began to rise. The trees became fewer and fewer, and finally there were only rocks, vast mountain rivers and vast areas of snow around. And then there was the wind, a powerful wind which again seemed to be aiming to blow me off the road. The temperature suddenly dropped from plus 17 degrees Celsius, 62.6 Fahrenheit, and later remained at the plus 11, plus 10 degrees, about 50 Fahrenheit mark. As I stopped in the parking lot near famous Arctic Circle Center, the freezing wind and snow made me think like winter had returned. That's how I drove back to where it gets dark at night again. After a few kilometers from the Arctic Circle Visitor Center, the road began to descend and the wind seemed to be easing. But it started to rain, and eventually it started to rain heavily. That was how I rode for the last 3 hours of the day: rain, wind, and falling temperatures. Since all possible forecasts indicated that rain was coming, I left the border of the Arctic Circle already prepared for it. With rain gear, I changed my gloves to waterproof ones and put my phone in a special case. But still, even if you are prepared, when it rains, a motorcyclist can suffer from a lot of small problems that people who don't ride motorcycles wouldn't even suspect. For example, how to scratch an itchy nose. It seems simple. You roll up the visor and scratch as much as you want. However, when it rains so hard, the inside of the helmet immediately gets wet. So the shorter or longer tunnels that occur along the way give the motorcyclist joy and a few moments of respite. Then you can safely and dryly pick your nose. Once I reached Trondheim, I planned to spend the day exploring the city. But first, I had to get there. The 3-hour torrential rain wasn't very pleasant, but the day-long journey was coming to an end and I was already dreaming of a hot shower and dry clothes under a roof. And then Google Navigation played a joke. It took me in the middle of nowhere. The night was coming, it was raining, and I was in the middle of the forest trying to figure out how to get to my hotel so I could finally dry my riding clothes and helmet. But the more I tried to use the navigation, the more it kept repeating, "You've arrived!" Only Apple Maps saved me, taking me exactly where I needed to be. I was stuck 3 kilometers away from my destination, had no alternatives, and wouldn't have found a hotel on my own. The next day, the forecast was again not promising anything good. It rained all day with very few breaks. But despite the heavy rain, the roads were full of motorcyclists. Everyone was moving from gas station to gas station. They dried off a bit, had a coffee, ran to the toilet and rode on. If they had to ride, everyone rode. There was not much choice. The rain forecast promised a long time, and in the evening strong gusts of wind also hit from the Atlantic. Warnings appeared in the local media to protect belongings, plan trips with a margin of time, because the roads could be blocked by trees, and those who wanted to fish in lakes and fjords should be extremely careful. The waves could be big. From my hotel to Trondheim, it was 400 kilometers that day. I drove almost all day this time. A long time, even by Norwegian speed standards. All because I had to stop often and warm up, dry off and rest at gas stations. Despite the rain, just before Trondheim I stopped in an iconic place, a small town called Hell. As I found on the internet, the name comes from the Old Norse word heller, meaning rock. But because of its English equivalent, hell, the village became popular primarily among English-speaking tourists, and later became more popular. In winter, the temperature here can drop to -25 degrees Celsius, -13 degrees Fahrenheit. This has made postcards very popular among English-speaking tourists, which showed the station building with the name of the village, and everything around is heavily frosted. The inscriptions on the postcards announce a frozen hell. Finally, after a day of riding in heavy rain, I reached Trondheim. I planned to spend the next day in the city, but I was worried that I had not yet found a place where I could change the rear tire of my motorcycle. I had hundreds of kilometers of mountain roads ahead of me, and I did not want to continue riding on them with a worn tire.